Greetings, intrepid drinkers, and welcome to day 3 of the Accelerated Gin Advent Calendar Challenge from Drinking Trends, made possible with the generous support of Drinks by the Dram Advent Calendars. You'll notice that my voice is a bit huskier today because it's coming to the end of a very long Christmas party season, and unfortunately I've been doing the serving the drinks more than the drinking drinks on that, and it's taking its toll. So what better thing to do to fix that than have a little more gin. And the gin we're going to start with today is, I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but I'm going to say Hven. It's Swedish. They've been going for about 7 years as a distillery. They opened initially as a whiskey distillery. They then started making organic gin, and they do this weird thing where they barrel age the gin prior to distillation. So they barrel age a spirit for 18 months, then they distill with the botanicals, and they rest in a cask, a stainless steel vat, I think, for a few more months, and then they redistill. So God only knows what that's going to taste like. I've heard good things about it. I haven't had this myself. One thing to note about this is, if you see down the bottom there where it says 57.1% ABV, that is Navy strength. Navy strength basically means it is, get that seal off, British proof. British proof is an old measure where you it's how sailors used to tell if a spirit was strong enough. They would soak gunpowder with it and strike a match. If the gunpowder still ignited, then it meant that was proof. That was what was called 100 proof in old British imperial measures, but in modern measures it's 57.15 ABV, or if you're American, that would be 142 roughly, I think. Sorry, it's very late in the day. 57.15 is 114, 115 proof in American proof. So, Navy strength. Okay, this is very, very herbaceous. Piney. Apparently it's an organic gin, and it uses juniper grown locally. It comes from this tiny island again, apologies for my pronunciation here, I'm going to say Öresund, which is the gap between Denmark and Sweden. If you've ever seen the bridge, it's that's the sound, that's the area. In fact, if you take a boat straight from Copenhagen and head directly north towards Helsingborg, that is the island that this is created on, is pretty much along your path there. You'll pass it on the right hand side. Thank you, Google Maps, for a little bit of context. So, quite herbaceous. Again, tasting this at 57.1, I'm going to taste it very quickly, but I know it's going to be very evaporating on the tongue, so I'm going to add a little drop of water. Yeah, Navy strength. And now I'm going to introduce you, if you don't know already, to this little thing called gin face, which is when you do a shot of Navy strength gin. It's kind of what your face looks like. Little drop of water to open it out and to save my palate a little bit. Very, very woody, herbaceous, but fresh and bright with it. There's a bit of sweetness there. Apparently there's some vanilla in the botanical batch as well. Okay, I've cut this down to, I'd say, roughly about 35-40%, and it is super smooth. Super smooth, very oily, silky type of mouthfeel. Very, very pleasant. So, gonna highball glass. What's left of sample? I'd say it's around 20 to 25 ml left in there. Because it's Navy strength, it's absolutely fine. I'm gonna add in the rest of my sample and gonna top it up with everybody's, I'm not going to say favorite tonic, but certainly the tonic that everybody enjoys, that more people enjoy than any other. Let's leave it at that. Other tonics are on the market, and there are some very good ones there. Like I said before, the introduction to this video series, Shrubs, is the one we're using because it's the one that everyone has access to. And as I continue the series, I may not still be here in Dalston Heights. You probably hear the sirens in the background. That's a weekend night in Dalston. Cheers. Oh, very bright and citrusy. I'm not sure if that's just the lime. So, okay, there's kind of pepperiness there. Apparently there's Szechuan peppers in the botanical batch on this. But the pepperiness is very much integrated into the smoothness and the sweetness. This is a delicious gin. I'm a big fan. Wouldn't necessarily drink it neat at Navy strength. I think it would make an awesome martini, by the way. And the gin and tonic at Navy strength, it's pretty delicious, I gotta be honest. So, Gin 5 in the Gin Advent calendar from Drinks by the Dram. Again, I almost certainly got the pronunciation wrong because my Swedish, or I'm not Swedish or Danish because it's half between the two. Looks Swedish, I'm gonna say Hven. Navy strengths 57.1. Fantastic for a martini. I would probably have that as a Gibson, and I can strongly recommend it for a gin and tonic. I'm a fan. However, as you may remember, we're doing 2 a day, so the second one today, and again, I'll probably get the pronunciation wrong in this, Ungava. And as you can see very clearly from that, it is another yellow gin. It's very unusual, folks. We have had 6 gins so far. Only 3 of them have been clear. One of them, bathtub, was lightly tinged. The second one was barrel aged from Firkin, and that was mad as a box of frogs. That was slightly yellow, and this is very, very, very clearly yellow. It has drawn some unkind remarks on the Master of Malt's customer reviews because of its colour. I can let that to your imagination what they've been saying about it. However, we're more concerned with how it tastes. So again, fresh ISO glass, you can see very, very bright. Now, as you probably already know, when you distill any alcohol, it distills clear. So the colour here comes from infusions post-distillation. Apparently they use 6 botanicals, and they're all available locally near the Ungava Bay, which is at the northeastern tip of Canada, just towards the northern tip of Quebec. So let's see what we have here. Okay, that's very unusual. That almost, I'd say almost doesn't really come across exactly like a gin. It doesn't say it's London Dry Gin. So the botanicals in there, they've got things like cloudberry, they've got something called Arctic Blend, which I'm guessing is a local botanical. I can't make my mind up about this on the nose. It doesn't have the kind of clear, sharp juniper that you always anticipate when you're talking about a gin. I'm just gonna get stuck in and see what we think. The least ginny gin we've had so far, folks. This has got apparently there's rosehip in here. I'm guessing there has to be juniper in there. Say there's 6 local botanicals. I'm guessing juniper has to be one of those, otherwise it's not a gin. But I'm not getting a lot of juniper. What's the strength on this? 43.1. It doesn't come across as 43.1, but then again, after tasting a Navy strength gin, what would? Okay, so without further ado, I did do a small bit of research on both of these before I tasted them and recorded this video for you guys. Apparently, the recommended garnish for this is grapefruit. Again, I'm going to keep lime and Schweppes tonic water in a glass full of ice just for consistency across the board. So in that goes. If you can hear the car horns in the background, it means there's a traffic snarl up on the mean streets of northeast London. It's the last Saturday night before Christmas weekend, so people are getting a bit ornery. There's a lot of Sunday drivers and a lot of one-year drinkers out there. In the glass, you can see it's yellow. Top that up. I love that sound. Okay, so cheers, let's give it a go. It tastes like a botanical spirit, but it doesn't taste like gin, I've got to be honest. Very different. If you have a friend who's not a gin fan, maybe this is the gin for them. Yeah, it's interesting. in the way that, I don't know, in the way that a friend you make at a party is very interesting until you find out that the reason they're talking to you is because everybody's gotten to know them and they're not actually that interesting. So, Ungava. I'm struggling to find something nice to say about it, if I'm honest. What I will say is I have Hven, and that's a lot nicer. So I'm going to sign off saying cheers. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to enjoy this because it's been a long, hard week, folks.